Hi everyone, it's Sam, NFTstatistics, and this is your Proof Daily NFT Countdown. I ran some analysis yesterday about how profitable Blur farmers have been, what returns we're going to need from that token for Blur farmers to make money. Going to run through that today. Also going to talk about Yuga, which recently partnered with a game company, and there are some announcements around that, as well as selling out 8Fest tickets. Going to talk about all that stuff. Let's start off with a quick market overview, starting off with volumes. A little bit down, kind of still in that range, but down a little bit from yesterday. Unique buyers also have been very range bound, but trending a little bit higher over the past week, around 6,000 unique buyers of ETH NFTs every day. Large cap index, you can't really see it here, but it was up a small bit, largely because Milady, which I added yesterday to this index, was up a whole lot, of about 16%, rose above 3 ETH, and then had some weakness in Doodles and a little bit in DGods, I suppose. Mid-cap index basically flat, up a small bit, had some strength in Sprato Gremlins, Renga, Sprato Gremlins, Milady, and Remilio all kind of have similar similar holder collector bases, and those were all up a fair bit yesterday, so something happening there, and then a little bit of weakness in Nakamigos after the strength we saw yesterday. Just looking at the Milady's chart, you can see this chart has actually, in the scheme of things, this is one project that has actually been quite up over the past 6 months, really kind of bucked a lot of the trends, and you can see that right there. In terms of our projects, a little bit of volume at a Fidenza sale, Chromie Squiggles, there were 4 trades. Let's look at some of these NFTs that sold. The Fidenza here, you can see, was at 61 WETH or 60.7. Pretty low sale relative to where Fidenzas have been selling recently, but sometimes people just want to take those bids. There were actually 2 fuzzies that sold. One was around in the 13 to 14 ETH range, and this one here sold for 14.5. This Meridian has actually been listed for a long time, but someone came in and wanted it and paid 9.3 ETH above the 8 and change ETH floor. And then here we have a Algorithms by Han and Nicholas Daniel, which sold for 4 ETH. This is a very rare Algorithms because of that diagonal framework. There are only 2 of them in the entire collection. This was bought by 6529. The other is owned by Vincent Van Dough. That other one sold for 15 ETH. So a real grail here. Nice to see that sale. Second thing, and I mentioned this earlier, I kind of wanted to look into overall returns of farmers or in general, people who are buying NFTs through bidding on Blur. And not everybody who buys NFTs through bidding is a farmer, but I think most are, largely because if you're looking for an NFT you want, you're generally going to pick the one you want. We find that most of the Blur bids end up flipping quite quickly. So I wanted to dig in. What have been the overall returns for people who have bought NFTs via bids on Blur? And you can see it's been very, very negative. This kind of goes all the way back to when bidding began. And in that first season, things were basically pretty flat. But once season 2 started, on February 13th, you had a little bit of an up move, and then things started to kind of go down only. Where we are right now overall, that overall kind of bidding structure has led to 50,000 ETH in losses. I guess call it around $90 million in losses, of real life losses since the beginning of bidding. Now, if you look at where the projects have been and where those losses have been concentrated, these are the 20 projects that have done the most ETH volume. And you can see 19 of them have had people lose money who have bought NFTs via bids. So buying via bids has just generally been a money-losing strategy pretty much across projects. Bored Ape Yacht Club, the biggest losses, more than 6,000 ETH of losses. Then Azuki and Mutant Apes, both around 4,800. The only project which is up in terms of realized returns has been Captains, where overall people who've bought via bids have won are up 113 ETH total. When we look at the next chart where you include unrealized gains, you can see that those are down as well. It's interesting with Captains because that's the one project really, you're one of the very few projects on this group where they're actually enforcing royalties. It's led to probably a little bit less farming, but still, kind of surprising that the one that enforces royalties, and this does incorporate royalty payments, is the one project that is up. Now, while they're overall down about 49 million or 49,000 ETH overall, this does not include unrealized losses. So NFTs that were bought via bids, perhaps on Bored Ape Yacht Club at 50 ETH, at 60 ETH, with the floor now at around 29 ETH. When you start including unrealized losses, you can see that the losses are actually much worse, more than 10,000 ETH of losses on Bored Ape Yacht Club, Mutant Ape Yacht Club, as well as Azuki. So the numbers really start to add up there when you incorporate that. I wanted to kind of look at how do you sum this all together. Overall, you put it together, it's probably 47,000 of realized losses, about net 69,000 ETH total of unrealized losses. That's about $210 million in realized losses in US dollar terms. Each of the top 20 projects has negative overall P&L when you incorporate realized losses as well as unrealized losses. Now, again, not all of these bidders are farmers. Some people just use this as their way to buy NFTs. It's not a perfect analysis. There are a couple gaps, I think, when it relates to people using the blend wallet to buy and sell. So it's not entirely perfect, but I think it does give a very rough ballpark of where things are. How does that compare to the overall bonus that people are going to be getting through the Blur token, right? They've said that they're going to be releasing 300 million Blur token to the community. Now, Pac-Man has also said on calls that it likely will be actually higher than the 300 million that's been set aside. But if it were 300 million, it's a $90 million airdrop. So it doesn't really kind of come close to the amount of losses that farmers have taken. And I think overall, I think we're going to see that. This season 2 just keeps going on and on. I think when you actually get that day where people finally get their liquidity and everyone is trying to exchange it for ETH or for dollars, we'll see what happens to the token. But it will be interesting to see if these farmers stick around. I think right now there's a lot of memory of season 1 where that was the last time they got paid, and they got paid a lot more than expected. As I showed, the P&L from season 1 actually wasn't bad at all. It was actually pretty much flat. So that was great. But now I think you have the overall delivery is going to be a little bit lower. The token price is lower, and people have really taken serious losses to get there. So curious to see how that ultimately plays out. Third thing to talk about, Yuga and Rec League combine for a game. Here's an article from CoinDesk saying game developer and Animoca brand subsidiary Enway Games is launching a Web3 mech fighting game called Rec League that will bring 4 of Yuga Labs NFT collections into the storyline as part of a licensing deal. And then Yatsuo, the chairman of Animoca Brands, also commented saying that this game has been in planning and development since 2021. It takes a long time to deliver high-quality games. We in Enway are very excited to announce this AAA game that will bring forward Web3 gaming. Here are some of the images that have kind of been put out as promotional images. This is from our friends over at Bored Ape Gazette, showing different images from the teaser that they showed. Really kind of has this like 3D version of Street Fighter look and feel, where you have 2 different mechs, I think you call them mechs, kind of fighting each other. Kind of cool looking stuff. I'm not a huge gamer. I'm not a huge Street Fighter guy. So for me, it's not really probably something I'll spend a lot of time on, but cool to see that. Now, one thing that is part of it is that there's an allow list, and there has been a little bit of concern because you have to KYC in order to get on that allow list. Just kind of summarizing up a bunch of the details. One is that you have to KYC, and that clearly not something that people want to do. You have to give your social security number, other government documents, other things like that. I think the reason is because part of the game is dealing with financial assets. And I think when you're going to be above board when it comes to buying and selling, trading of financial assets, which you can make money off of, they want to make sure everything is above board. The people who own Yuga NFTs, and they've said Mutant Apes, Kennel Club, Coda, as well as Bored Ape Yacht Club are going to get free claims to get the free NFTs. Kind of not part of the game. There is no KYC necessary for that. They did clear that up. The other thing is that players can buy and earn mech parts and use them to create characters. And you can put up to 10 parts together to create a character. Both the parts and the NFT are characters, and you can sell those on the Web2 store. So if you have a character you think is great, you can put it on the store. Not everything here is going to involve Web3. It's also going to be a Web2 game, and you can sell the characters you create on that Web2 store and get a little bit of rev share from that. A couple more quotes. They said that players from, again, all these 4 projects will be able to utilize their rare Yugaverse mechs to enhance their gameplay, adding an element of exclusivity to their in-game achievements. Now, one of my thoughts is it doesn't feel that exclusive because between those 4 projects, there are 50,000 NFTs, 20,000 Mutant Apes, 10,000 Bored Apes, Codas, and Kennel Clubs. So it doesn't feel that exclusive. 50,000 is a lot for this market, but still, just one of the things they talked about. And they also said that players will not be able to battle one another as Bored Apes. It would be fun if you could be a Bored Ape and use your Bored Ape to battle, but that's actually not what they're trying to do here. But they might bring in other characters from Yuga Labs, such as Curtis, Jimmy, Gary, and Blue, who could be woven into the game's narrative. And we saw a little bit of that from the video. Last thing to talk about, let's talk about a couple notable sales. First of all, and this was just a crazy sale. This was crazy. Skulls of Luci sold to BatSoupYum for 15 ETH. Why do I say it's crazy? It's an NFT for $30,000. What's so crazy about that? Well, what's crazy is that the prior sales have been in the 65 to 80 ETH range. And when I talk to people in this community, they say that there are buyers at 70 ETH and no one wants to sell. So this was a pretty wild pickup. I talked to a couple of people about how this happened, and BatSoupYum confirmed this. This was just listed on Super Rare. Apparently, there's one holder of the 50 who has just been out of commission, who has been silent. No one really knows where this person is. They're active. Their wallet is pretty inactive, and they just came onto Super and listed it for 15 ETH, and it's sold. So congrats to BatSoupYum. that is an incredible pickup. And I'm sure that Sam Spratt and the council are very happy to have BatSoupYum be a part of that. Next thing to talk about, a zero trait punk sold for 500 ETH. Just a massive sale. Let's look a little bit at what zero trait punks are. Here are the 8 of them. There are 8 zero trait punks. Why are there 8? Because every punk is either male or female. That's not considered one of the traits. And then every punk has a skin tone. And there are 4 skin tones. There's the albino, the dark, medium, and light. So put that together, it's 4x2. There are 8 of them. And these are the only punks that have 0 traits that are actually listed on the traits and attributes. Now, they're also very liquid. When you have something that only has 8 total, you don't really have a sense of pricing. In this case, there hasn't been a single sale since February of 2023. That's 2.5 years ago. That sale was for 550 ETH. So kind of a pretty similar price to where we are now. Now, that was before kind of the Visa and Jay-Z pumps that we got a little bit later in 2021. If you look at this punk that's sold today, it actually also sold about 3 years ago for 190 ETH. So not a bad 3-year return for the person who sold that NFT. And then lastly, let's look at one super rare sale. One thing I wanted to look at, this chart basically looks at the median top sale per day on super rare over the past 2 weeks. And you can see it got as high, and this is all kind of in the period, which I would say has been a bit of a bear market, but it got as high as like we were getting a sale every day in that 10 to 15 ETH range. Right now, we're closer to 2.5 to 3 ETH, which is actually where the top sale per day is. So a little bit of a slowdown in terms of the really high sales that we're getting on super rare. But one that I did want to highlight was this piece called Before the Computer Crash by Antpantone or Antpantone, or sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I think Antpantone sounds about right. Sold for 2 ETH to none other than BatSoupYum. We're talking about him again, but very cool piece. Does have a little animation, really in line with this ant style. Here are a bunch of other ants sales. You can see at 3.4, 2.2, 4.4 ETH, 3.2. This artist has had kind of consistent sales over the past couple years. So cool to see that one at 2 ETH. Just a little bit about him. He said, I would describe my art style as the user interface of my imagination. I'm able to take all my interconnected experiences and reconstruct them through fragmented photography and iconography sales, and just really an ownable look. So it is very cool to see that, and love to see that 2 ETH sale to BatSoupYum. One more thing, forgot to say this. A DrifterShoots, where my van go, in the back of 6 pieces selling 2 days ago. Another one sold yesterday. This one for 12 ETH, bought by Anonymous. So congrats to him, and congrats to Drift on having all these sales. That is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, give us a like. Tell us what you think in the comments. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to our Telegram group. We'll be back on Monday. I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks a lot.